Good day, everyone. I'm Bunny Bishop, and I work for the Nevada Division of Water Resources. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the water planning and drought resiliency section and some of our goals and plans for planning. Before we begin, I'd like to say a quick thank you to the NWRA staff and Ed James for inviting me to participate on this panel. The goal of this section is to assist the state and its local governments and citizens in developing good, effective plans for the use of water. If you'd like to know more about the tasks that have been assigned to our section, you can find many details in NRS 540. Next, I'd like to introduce you to the Water Planning and Drought Resiliency team. There's myself, Bunny Bishop. I'm the chief of the section. And also I have working with me Nicole Goring and Will Boyer. They are the water resource specialists on the team. On today's agenda, we're going to go over water planning and some of the goals of the section and some of the resources available for water planning. We're going to talk about what our section does for water conservation plans and also talk about drought. We'll go over the floodplain management program that is also part of this section, and then talk about some of our outreach and education goals. Here I have outlined some of the goals of the water planning section. We seek to become a liaison between federal and state agencies and the Nevada communities and stakeholders involved in water planning. Another goal we have is to update some of the older water planning publications and bring them forward. This also involves developing a contemporary state water plan. Another goal of the section is to offer planning assistance to those communities that need to develop their own water plans. And we'd also like to be available to federal, state agencies, and communities in an advisory capacity for water policy and planning. To develop a useful water resource plan, I believe it needs to be an integrated water resource plan. When you begin looking at water planning, you need to take the basics into consideration and look at supply and demand issues. You need to consider population growth and economic growth. I think you need to consider future climate conditions too. But to have a truly comprehensive plan, you need to integrate the elements of water conservation, drought planning, and floodplain management into your water plan. All of these issues are relevant to Nevada. Nevada is the driest state in the nation, yet we are prone to flooding. In Nevada, we tend to go back and forth between extremes. We can have what is statistically an average water year, but more often than not, we have several less than average water years punctuated by a wet year. I've been told that in Nevada, every drought ends in a flood. Now let's take a look at the state water plan update process. The planning team has been developing an outreach strategy that involves the development of a public survey and regional discussion and listening sessions. The public survey is intended for Nevada's citizens and community officials. We're interested in finding out what they perceive as the important issues facing water planning in our state. The regional discussion and listening sessions are slated to begin in the spring of this year. We had hoped to hold them in person, however, we're going to have to begin by holding them virtually. The planning team is also developing a list of stakeholders to invite to participate in an advisory group. This group would provide input and feedback on the draft of the state water plan. We also believe there will be a need to have a few smaller technical working groups. These smaller working groups would be made up of specialists in areas of, say, economic forecasting or population forecasting so that they can provide input on those particular sections of which they are specialists. We have also been doing a literature review. What we've been doing is looking at what other states in the Arid West have in their plans. And in case you're not sure what the Arid West is, I have provided this Noaa Climate Atlas. This atlas shows average annual precipitation in the United States. And basically, the Arid West is all the states that lie west of the 100th meridian. And that is roughly in the middle of the country where it starts turning brown. The rest to the west is the Arid West. So we've been looking at what our neighbors have in their plans because maybe they have some best practices or good ideas that we hadn't thought of that might be very good ideas for Nevada. We've also been looking at scientific outlooks and forecasts. We've been looking to see what other state or federal agencies have for data out there that might be useful for our water planning process. As we continue the process of updating the state water plan, we'll be reaching out to many water planning partners. I have listed a few here at the federal, state, and local level. We invite input and feedback from stakeholders interested in the water planning process. In order to have a truly comprehensive plan, I believe we need to listen to everyone's input and concerns. So if you haven't heard from us yet, don't be surprised if we reach out to you in the future. The water planning team has also been having many discussions about how we can provide support and assistance to counties and cities in the development of their own water resource plans. In 2019, the legislature passed Senate Bill number 150. And basically what this said is that a county or city needs to develop and maintain a water resource plan of their own. The initial plan must be adopted on or before July 1st, 2029, and it needs to be updated every 10 years. We're aware that there are many counties who already have a water plan in place, and there are many cities who already have a plan in place, or perhaps they are part of a larger regional plan. If you'd like to know more about SB 150, I've provided a link at the bottom of this webpage. But one of the things we've been thinking about as we are collecting resources and gathering data and best practices for the state water plan is how we can make a comprehensive list of all these resources to better assist the counties and cities in the development of their own plans if they request assistance and support. Another way the Nevada Division of Water Resources planning team can assist the counties and the cities with the development of their own plan is by helping them navigate through all of the resources we have at NDWR. This is a clip or a snapshot of our website. And as you'll see on this particular page, I'm looking at the water planning tab, and there are a lot of resources about water planning, and there are some drought information resources. And here's another slide that's a clip of our NDWR website, and I'm showing you more resources and data that are available. Here I'm on the mapping and data tab, and I'm looking at water use availability. And you can find pumpage inventories, crop inventories, stream flow data, water level data, all kinds of pumpage and water use data on this particular tab. And I wanted to also point out that next to it you can look and see there's a mapping application links tab. And on this one you have access to interactive maps that will show you points of diversion and places of use by permit number. So NDWR has a lot of data that will be very useful to communities as they start developing or updating their water resource plans. Let's take a closer look at pumpage and crop inventories. Many of you are probably familiar with what's in these reports, but perhaps there are a few of you who are not. On an annual basis, NDWR staff go out and estimate the amount of groundwater pumpage for select basins throughout Nevada. These reports are either by water year or calendar year. You just need to look at the cover to see which. But these reports are really great for water planning because they have a wealth of information about those select basins. They not only have groundwater use and pumpage estimated by either reading meters or by other methods as described in the report, but they also have groundwater commitments. There's information about historical groundwater use and pumpage by manner of use. The difference between crop inventories and pumpage inventories is that crop inventories are focused on irrigation. Here I have the Carson Valley Water Year 2017 Groundwater Pumpage Inventory Report, and this is a clip from that report showing one of the figures, and there are many figures and tables, and there are appendices in there with data by permit number and point of diversion, but this particular figure is showing the comparison between groundwater commitments and estimated pumpage. Again, there's a lot of great information on the NDWR website that is good data and resources for water planning. Let's talk water conservation. Our team reviews the water conservation plans that are submitted by water purveyors throughout the state as required by NRS 540. Basically, what our team does is we review these plans to make sure that they have all the components as required by NRS 540. And we also provide technical assistance if somebody's having a difficulty with a particular element or item that is required in the plan. The Water Planning and Drought Resiliency team has also been tasked with drought planning. Currently, we have a drought response plan in place for Nevada, and this is a great plan. It talks about and describes the different types of drought, the monitoring system we have in place for drought, the drought response committee that was created during the last drought that we had, and it talks about response activities for drought. However, this reads more like an emergency action plan. In order to achieve drought resiliency, we need to continue strategically looking at planning and mitigation for drought. So what's next? We've been discussing standing up a Nevada Drought Committee. That would be a group of stakeholders interested in drought coming together to talk about what we can do to mitigate drought in the future for Nevada. Since we're on the topic of drought, I want to share with you an excellent resource. This is a clip from the United States Drought Monitor. I navigated to the map for Nevada specifically as of December 31st, 2020. As you can see, we have some large areas that are in extreme and exceptional drought. How did we get here? Nevada had a very hot, dry summer. In fact, Southern Nevada had a 240-day dry spell. Now, I know Northern Nevada, we've had some precipitation in the Sierra Nevada and up here in Northern Nevada. However, keep your fingers crossed. We need a bit more. We need a good snowpack this year. But this resource is excellent because it doesn't just have a map for drought. It has mini maps. So you can do a slider and do map comparisons. There's lots of data on this website. There's links to outlooks. And this website also provides access to other resources for drought mitigation and planning and tools that have been provided by partner agencies. In fact, there is also a link to the Farm Service Agency Livestock Forage Disaster Program Eligibility Tool. Lots of excellent resources on this website, and if you'd like to check it out, I've included a link to the website at the bottom of this slide. If you'd like to participate in drought monitoring, you can. You can do this through a program called Condition Monitoring Observer Reports on Drought, or CMOR for short. I have included a clip of the website fact sheet that you can find and a link to the website in case you want more information. What they're looking for is information on how drought is affecting you. If you have specific questions about CMOR, you can go to Carrie Jean Ormerod or Steph McGaffey directly. I have included their contact information on this slide as well, or you can go to the Living with Drought website for more information. Now let's go from one extreme to the other. I'd like to introduce you to the floodplain management team. Erin Warnock is the state floodplain manager. Sarah Fitchner is the floodplain mapping coordinator. Carlos Rindo is our public outreach manager, and Kayla Meyer is our flood program specialist. The state floodplain management team is responsible for providing support to those communities in Nevada that participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, and they do this in a variety of ways. One is by coordinating and supporting training and workshops for local floodplain managers so they can stay current on NFIP requirements. Another is coordination support for risk map and remapping projects. Another way is by being a liaison for mitigation planning and supporting the update of the state hazard mitigation plan. The team also provides technical assistance on a wide variety of floodplain management topics and issues. And the floodplain management program also conducts community assistance visits, which are visits to the communities to see how their program is running. For outreach and education, let's focus on outreach first. Our planning team was very excited to distribute and publish our first water planning and drought resiliency newsletter this past fall. This first issue many great articles. We had an introduction to the team in there. We featured the climate toolbox in an article, had an article covering the Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart grants, featured a meter replacement project for Tonopah Public Utilities, and also had information from the U.S. Drought Monitor in there. If you didn't see or receive this first newsletter, you can go to the NDWR website, and under Water Planning Publications, you can see the first newsletter. And there's also a tab there where you can sign up to receive the next one, which is slated to be distributed this spring. And if you prefer, you can also reach out to me and I can add you to the distribution list as well. My contact information will be at the end of this presentation. We already talked about the newsletter, so let's move on to education and training. The planning team has been discussing how we can bring different opportunities for education and training to Nevada communities, whether that be conservation education or training about what you need to have in a water conservation plan. If you see a need or would like training on a specific topic, reach out to us and let us know, and we will see what we can do about it. We've also been keeping our eyes open for opportunities to bring in training from other agencies, whether that be a state or a federal agency or some other kind of nonprofit. So be alert, because as we come across training opportunities that we think that you would be interested in, we're going to try to bring those opportunities to our communities in Nevada. I want to thank you for allowing me a moment of your time to talk about the water planning and drought resiliency section. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.